Pratyush, thanks very much for joining us here this evening. As I said, it's been a great year for Boeing in India. 2015 was the year of the mega win as far as the orders were concerned. Lots of frustrating moments as well, with 13 price revisions that you had to deal with, but congratulations. You're doing this mega conference here today, bringing in your suppliers from across 12 different countries, bringing in 45 of your partners. Is this in alignment with your country-to-company strategy? And how crucial is India today for Boeing globally?
Thank you, Shereen. Certainly, this is very much aligned with our company-to-country strategy. Our key focus is to make sure that we align with the critical countries we work with, their strategies. And as you know, the big focus in India right now is Make in India. And we certainly want to step up and make sure that our strategy is aligned with that. And we view that alignment as a win-win proposition. We work in a world where our customers require more for less, so more capabilities, more capacity, more performance, more fuel efficiency, more range for more affordable pricing. So therefore, we're looking for pockets of productivity across the world, and India certainly offers one such opportunity, especially for highly engineered products such as airplanes that we have. So this is in support of executing our strategy. This is not just a conference. This is actually a working session for next 48 hours.
Okay.
As we mentioned earlier, we have 157 meetings set up between our direct suppliers and potential India suppliers. These are sessions set up to identify the work packages that can be done in India, which is certainly going to create an ecosystem for aerospace manufacturing in the country. So it's not just Boeing. All our direct suppliers are here, so we can actually create that ecosystem.
I'll come to the creation of that ecosystem and the supply chain in just a second, but if I could ask you to specifically identify what's changed here in India. You finally have a joint venture in India. A couple of weeks ago, I'd asked you that question, that you've been around for long enough, why don't you actually have a joint venture in India? And you said, wait and watch, and a couple of weeks later, you did announce the joint venture with Tata's. Why has it taken so long for an equity arrangement here in India?
Right. No, so we've had partnership with Indian companies for a long time. We've been manufacturing aerospace components for over 2 decades. But this is the first time we actually partnered in equity partnership. And the reason for that was a confluence of factors. One is we want to create a vehicle for strategic development, not just manufacturing, but how do you co-create a platform, co-develop and co-produce platforms. So for that, we thought it was important for us to jump in with equity partnership, and we're glad we did that. This is just a start, and this is going to be our vehicle for not only capturing manufacturing productivity in the country, but also an important vehicle for us to go to market in India as the country looks to see opportunities for, make and buy India.
So you said this is just the start. Are we likely to see you ink more joint venture partnerships with an equity arrangement?
Well, we're certainly not going to rule anything out, but at this point of time, this is the one we're going to focus on. This is the first step on equity partnership for us. Very important that we execute that well and deliver on a promise that we made to our shareholders and to India.
Okay, let's now talk about creation of this ecosystem that everyone's talking about, and everyone is betting on the big Make in India opportunity, specifically in the defense space. From a pain point of view, and there's several pain points that haven't yet been addressed, and the hope is that once the government were to announce the new defense procurement policy, which it wanted to this year, we don't know if it finally will announce it this year or not, but what would be the specific pain points that you would like the new policy to address as and when the government does decide to unveil it?
Right, I think the new procurement policy, DPP, has been under works for a while. There's some short-term pain points and there's some longer-term issues. In terms of short-term pain points that all of us dealt with is on offsets. How do we actually execute on offset commitments? It's highly constrained. So if there is some flexibility...
More constrained than other markets that you operate in?
Certainly, probably the most constrained set of rules, at least in terms of implementation, than any other market we've seen across the world. So relaxing of some of the constraints will actually help us deliver on the promise of offsets. So offsets are designed to catalyze manufacturing. hasn't actually quite delivered on that.
Is it because it's more skewed towards PSUs?
No, it's not exactly that. It's more about, how much flexibility the OEMs have in choosing and working with their offset partners.
Okay.
So that flexibility, if that comes our way, it will certainly help us do more in India. And at least the discussions we've had with the government, we see encouraging signs on that. Obviously, we're waiting for a formal notification on that. Even if we don't have to wait for the new policy, if they can relax some of these constraints sooner than that,
okay,
that will
so
help
deal with
in a big way.
the larger procurement policy separately, but perhaps bring in the relaxation as far as the offsets themselves are concerned.
That's right. That's
okay.
right. So that is certainly one pain point that us and our direct suppliers have faced in India. In addition to that, more visibility in terms of conclusion of contracts will be better, because that helps us and our partners make the business plans. So adherence to published timelines would be actually quite important. I know government is working on that. It's not an easy problem to solve, but that's something that can look forward to, being addressed in the new policy.
Okay, so those are some of the pain points specifically that you hope that the new procurement policy and the new offset policy may alleviate. But let me ask you about the big concerns which continue to weigh on investor sentiment when it comes to India. Litigation, especially around taxes, and the possibility of retrospective taxation. How much of a concern does that continue to be for a global company like yours?
We certainly have been a concern, but we got past that when we made the decision to make an equity investment in joint venture with Tata's. And the reason we got past that is the recent actions by the government, where there's a clear message from none other than the Prime Minister that we're now going to go act on the retrospective taxation policy. So that gave us comfort. Now that comfort will be solidified when it's changed legislatively.
Yeah.
So we have to come back and back up that statement and the policy action with legislation. But that's a step in the right direction. Similarly, we are awaiting reforms such as the GST taxes that get passed. That will certainly make it easier for us to conduct business in India, transport goods from one part of the country to the other part of the country more efficiently.
Sure.
So we're looking forward to that.
So the goods and services tax is the big legislative change that not just you but everybody
that's
else
right, yeah.
That's doing business in India, domestic and foreign, are looking forward to, because it will create hopefully a unified market. But, in the last 12 months, what has changed when we talk about the ease of doing business? And there's been a lot of talk around that. But when we talk about operationally things on the ground, what are the big changes that you've seen?
We certainly have seen a huge focus administratively to take away the impediments. And I'll give you a couple of real examples of that. So in Nagpur, we're building a huge MRO for Air India. And there was a small piece of land which was off the 2-kilometer taxiway, about 400 meters, was pending for a very long time. The new government came in place and they figured out a way to acquire that land and pave the taxiway. Administrative but real. That's very important for us to kind of keep making progress. Second one I will say is that the Chinook and Apache decision. It was mired in complexity for a very long time. We really applaud the government for simplifying the complexity and finding a way to cut through that delay and making the decision. So these are tangible, bankable proof points for us to feel that the ease of doing business in India is getting better.
Okay.
Still long way to go, but we are seeing some important signs of that.
Okay, just to take that forward, since you talked about the opportunities within the MRO space, and this was again a big pain point as far as global investors were concerned, that India wasn't really capitalizing on the opportunity from an MRO point of view, and now the draft civil aviation policy, which is yet to be cleared by the Indian cabinet, does try and address some of those concerns with regards to positioning India as a hub for MROs. Do you believe that enough has been put on the table to be able to realize and maximize that potential and promise?
The draft policy is a significant step forward, especially with respect to MRO, because as you know, MRO's business case did not close because of taxation structure. So by addressing that, it's going to certainly help capture all the aircraft which are flying for heavy checks out of the country. So yes, we do believe that it is a significant step forward. We hope the draft policy is adopted and implemented.
Well, we hope so too, and we hope that by the end of this calendar year, we do actually have a notification come in on that. But again, I ask you this in the context of what you're seeing happen as far as other emerging markets are concerned, where you are already manufacturing. Would India be the most exciting market for Boeing today? Both in terms of the market opportunity as well as the possibility of competitively manufacturing here?
Certainly, in both ways, and I'll put this in context. If you look across the world, right, with emerging and growing middle class, we see a huge growth in traffic, commercial traffic in India. As you know, this year the traffic growth has been high teens, probably close to 20%.
Yeah.
And as you see more people getting into middle class with disposable income, that is only going to sustain for a long period of time. So we see a very strong outlook for commercial civil aviation in India. At the same time, we also see a huge focus on upgradation of defense capabilities. So that creates opportunity on the defense side, especially for aviation platforms. So the confluence of those two things are unique in India. So as we look across the world, there are very few places that has as compelling market opportunity. So from a defense point of view, and both as from a commercial point of view, we see India as very important and strong market.
So that's the market opportunity, and that's a given.
Right.
But what about, is it as compelling a manufacturing opportunity?
So let's come back to the manufacturing. The manufacturing focus in India is new, especially for aerospace. There's a lot of ground to cover in terms of getting our suppliers and industry ready for aerospace manufacturing. We are working very closely with our Indian partners to get the frontline factory workers skilled to perform aerospace manufacturing, to help them with quality systems and training, to make sure that the quality systems are actually codified as institutional knowledge as a system as opposed to some ad hoc way of measuring quality and maintaining quality, which is required for them to be globally competitive from quality, delivery, and cost point of view.